Welcome to Protect, Suicide Prevention Training Podcast for Healthcare Professionals. I'm Manaan, Consultant Psychiatrist, Founder, and Head of Faculty at Progress Guide.
Hi everyone, it's Mahi, your Protect podcast host. Today is episode 57. So Manaan, we've just wrapped up World Mental Health Week, and I have to say it's been pretty inspiring to see so many conversations happening around mental health and well-being. So how are you feeling about everything that's unfolded this past week?
Yeah, great actually. I feel really encouraged. So World Mental Health Week and especially World Mental Health Day, I did the Super Summit, which was organized by Mental Health Academy on the 10th. So it provides us critical opportunities to raise awareness, break down stigma, and remind everyone that mental health is something we all need to prioritize. This year's focus was on mental health in the workplace, and that has brought much needed attention to the fact that our work environments can either contribute to or alleviate stress and mental health struggles. It's been wonderful to see organizations taking steps towards creating healthier, more supportive environments for their employees. And on World Mental Health Day itself, and I did the talk for the Super Summit, we also launched Compass of the Heart, which includes 100 values in it. So that was something that we've been working on. It's like the adult counterpart for the Sunny's Value Scouts series. And we also kind of launched the 4 values workbook. Each, as you know, you've been kind of very involved in designing them. Each workbook has 25 values. Every week you explore a particular value and you kind of live the hope framework. So that's quite exciting to see where it goes. So the entire kit, really. So the 11 books of Sunny's Value Scouts, Compass of the Heart, and the 4 workbooks, and the Safe Life Guide's Hope View. So we've done a lot in this space for resilience, and it was great to put it out there and launch it properly on World Mental Health Day.
And all the books are available on Amazon as well, so our listeners can go check that out.
Yeah, and available on Kindle and as well as on paperback as well.
I think what's been particularly impactful this year is how the conversation has moved beyond just mental illness to include everyday mental health, like how we manage stress, how we cope with setbacks, and how we build resilience, like you mentioned. That's exactly what this podcast series is about, isn't it? Exploring values like belonging and acceptance that can help both children and adults build resilience and thrive.
Absolutely, Mahi. It's like these values, when lived out in our everyday lives, act as building blocks for emotional well-being. They not only help us understand ourselves better, but also foster stronger connections with others. In the first episode, we explored the importance of belonging, Sunny and Penny. And today, we will look at acceptance, which is another crucial value, especially when life doesn't go as planned.
Yes, and before we dive into today's episode, I think we should quickly recap the first value that we covered in the series, which was belonging. So in that story, Sunny learned about belonging from Penny the penguin, who taught him that belonging is about being part of something bigger than yourself, whether that's a family, a friendship group, or a community. And Manaan, you talked about how belonging is such a vital part of our mental well-being. So could you remind us why that's so important?
Sure. So belonging is a fundamental human need. As social beings, we all need to feel connected to others. So to feel like we have a place in the world. When we experience belonging, it gives us emotional security, which is particularly important for children as they develop their sense of self. But even for adults, feeling like we belong can be a protective factor against mental health issues like anxiety and depression. It gives us a support network to lean on when times are tough. In terms of suicide prevention, belonging can be a powerful buffer against feelings of isolation and hopelessness.
Exactly. It's a value that resonates with everyone. And in today's episode, we're going to build on that by exploring on acceptance.
So today's story, Acceptance at the Lagoon, follows Sunny and Penny together. And you all would learn as you go through these stories that in the first story, they meet the primary character who is there along the whole journey with Sunny. And then they team up, they form a trio. So the trio in this story would be formed by Kody the Koala about the power of acceptance. So before we, you know what, Mahi? I want to play a game that at the end of each of the podcast, we should say what the next value should be on, and we should get our listeners to guess who might be the third character in the story. That would be quite a good guessing game that we could play.
Mm-hmm.
So, but before we jump into the story, should we talk a little bit about acceptance and why it's such a critical value?
Yeah.
Not just in mental health, but in general.
Yeah.
So, acceptance is the foundation of resilience. It's about embracing the reality of our situations, even when they don't align with our expectations. So, those of you who have been using the Safe Life Guide, that first video in the Hope View is all about acceptance, how we can fight reality, reject reality, deny reality, and all that it does is it turns a difficult life scenario, it takes it from emotional pain into suffering. So reality is what it is. And we often talk about radical acceptance, which is a concept in DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, that helps people accept life as it is, not as they wish it to be. This can be incredibly freeing, because resisting reality, as I was saying, only increases suffering. Mm-hmm. When we accept things, whether they are external challenges or internal struggles, it doesn't mean we are giving up. It means we are choosing to stop fighting what we can't control and instead focus our energy on what we can change.
That's so important. Acceptance isn't about passive resignation. It's active. It's saying, this is where I am right now, and that's okay, but I'm still going to move forward. In many ways, it's the first step to healing and growth.
Well, that's very well said, Mahi. Whether we are talking about mental health challenges, a difficult life event, or even the small frustrations of daily life, acceptance helps us navigate through adversity without getting stuck. And when we teach this value to children, we are giving them a tool that will serve them for life. Acceptance helps them understand that mistakes, failures, and even painful emotions are part of life, and they don't define who they are. It actually builds resilience.
I think that's such an important lesson, especially for children, who might be feeling overwhelmed by setbacks or difficulties. And when we look at the global mental health landscape, we just see how crucial acceptance is in helping people rise above adversity. According to the World Health Organization, over 280 million people worldwide suffer from depression, and more than 260 million have anxiety disorders. So when people face adversity, whether it's losing a job or dealing with trauma or facing a mental health crisis, acceptance can be the key to moving forward.
That's right. And it's not just the big life events. Even on a day-to-day level, people struggle with stress, disappointment, and unmet expectations. Acceptance helps us navigate those smaller challenges too. So studies have shown that individuals who practice acceptance in their daily lives tend to experience less anxiety and depression because they aren't caught up in trying to control the uncontrollable. Instead, they focus on how to respond to life as it unfolds. So, shall we get into the story? I guess this is where we go with a little bit of intro music. So the stage is all yours. Okay, over to you, Mahi.
Acceptance at the Lagoon. A journey begins, reflecting on belonging. As the first rays of the morning sun bathed Terra Vale in soft pink and gold, Sunny stretched in the grassy meadow. The air was cool and fresh, the smell of damp earth and the sound of birds welcoming the new day. Penny the penguin, always cheerful, waddled toward him with a bright smile. "Good morning, Sunny," Penny chirped. "Ready for another adventure?" Sunny wagged his tail excitedly. "Always. What are we learning today?" Penny paused for a moment, her little wings fluttering in thought. "Today, we're going to learn about acceptance. But before we do, let's remember what we learned yesterday about belonging." Sunny's eyes lit up as he recalled the lesson. Belonging is about being part of something bigger, like my family with Tommy and Lily. We belong together. "Exactly," Penny said. Belonging is also something we live out every day in the way we support one another. Look there. They spotted two squirrels playing on a nearby tree branch, chasing each other and sharing acorns. Sunny smiled. "That's just like Tommy sharing his toys with Lily. It helps them feel close, like they belong." Penny nodded. "That's right. Belonging happens in small acts of kindness. It's about being part of a community that looks after each other." The Crystal Lagoon. Meeting Kody the Koala. After reflecting on belonging, Sunny and Penny made their way through the forest towards the Crystal Lagoon. The path was peaceful, the sunlight filtering through the trees, casting long shadows on the ground. Before long, they arrived at the lagoon, a serene, shimmering pool surrounded by tall eucalyptus trees. The water was so still it mirrored the sky, broken only by the occasional ripple from a gentle breeze. On one of the thick eucalyptus branches sat Kody the Koala, his soft grey fur glowing in the sunlight. "Hello, friends," Kody greeted in a slow, thoughtful voice, his large, kind eyes twinkling. "I hear you've come to learn about acceptance." Sunny wagged his tail. "Yes, Penny said you could teach us what it means." Kody slowly climbed down from the tree, settling himself on the soft ground beneath the eucalyptus. Acceptance is about understanding that things won't always go as planned, and that's okay. It's about accepting others and yourself with all our differences. Kody's backstory: the power of letting go. As Kody settled on the ground, he paused for a moment, his gaze drifting towards the sky. "Once I had a home high in the trees, but it was destroyed by a terrible bushfire." Sunny and Penny's eyes widened with sympathy as they listened. "Oh no, what happened?" Sunny asked softly. Kody smiled, but it was a sad, reflective smile. "It was hard at first. I felt so much sadness for the trees that were lost. But over time, I learned that sometimes we can't control what happens, and we must accept what life gives us. It taught me the power of letting go and accepting things as they are, even when they are different from what we expect." "Wow," Sunny whispered. "That must have been really hard." "It was," Kody nodded. "But by accepting it, I found peace and a new home. Now, I know that even though things change, we can always find a way forward." An adventure in acceptance. Just then, Penny noticed a fallen log stretching across the lagoon, creating a natural bridge. "Look, Sunny, let's explore the other side by crossing that log." Sunny stared at the narrow, unstable log with uncertainty. "What if I fall?" he asked. Penny smiled reassuringly. "It's okay, Sunny. You don't have to cross it if you're not comfortable. Acceptance means knowing when to try and when to take a different path." Kody nodded in agreement. Acceptance isn't about forcing things to be perfect. It's about accepting the situation and yourself, even if it means finding another way. Taking a deep breath, Sunny nodded. "I understand." He decided not to cross the log, feeling a sense of relief as they chose a different path. Together, the three of them explored the lagoon from the shore, finding beauty in every corner. A lesson in self-acceptance. As they sat by the lagoon, watching the gentle ripples on the water, Kody continued, "You see, acceptance isn't just about others. It's about accepting yourself, your fears, your strengths, and even your limits. You don't have to be perfect to be valuable." Sunny thought about this, his tail wagging slowly. "So, it's okay that I was scared of the log?" "Of course," Kody replied with a nod. "Fear is a natural part of life. By accepting it, you give yourself the strength to face it without pushing too hard." Penny chimed in, "Everyone has something that makes them unique. I'm a penguin and I'm great at swimming, but I'm not very good at flying. Kody is a master at climbing trees, but he isn't fast on the ground. We all have our strengths and weaknesses." Sunny smiled, feeling a warm glow inside. He realized that part of belonging was also accepting himself, just as he accepted others. Mini adventure, letting go and moving forward. As they continued their walk along the shore, they came across a small group of birds building nests in the trees. The nests looked delicate, but the birds worked together, accepting the materials they found. "Look at those birds," Kody said. "They don't worry if their nests aren't perfect. They accept what they have and make the best of it." Sunny watched as one bird dropped a twig, but simply flew off to find another. "I see now," Sunny said. "Acceptance is about letting go of what we can't control and making the best of what we have." Penny smiled. "Exactly. Just like Kody did after the bushfires, we learn to move forward by accepting the things we can't change." The power of acceptance. As the day began to fade into twilight, casting golden hues over the lagoon, Sunny, Penny, and Kody sat quietly by the water, reflecting on the lessons they had learned. Kody looked at Sunny with a gentle smile. "Remember, Sunny, acceptance brings peace. When you accept yourself and others for who they are, you find a deeper sense of belonging." The lagoon mirrored the stars as they began to twinkle above, turning the peaceful water into a canvas of glowing light. The breeze was soft and warm, and Sunny felt calm as he gazed at the tranquil scene. "Thank you, Kody," Sunny said quietly. "I've learned so much today. Acceptance is about embracing who you are and appreciating the differences in others. It's something I'll always remember." Kody nodded, his large, kind eyes reflecting the stars above. "You're on a wonderful journey, Sunny, and you'll find that acceptance will help guide you along the way." A night under the stars. As the night deepened and the cool air of Terra Vale surrounded them, Sunny and Penny made a cozy spot by the lagoon shore. Kody stayed close by, keeping them company under the starlit sky. The soft sound of the water lapping against the shore was like a lullaby, lulling them into a sense of peace. "We can rest here tonight," Kody said gently. "The lagoon will keep us safe, and the stars will watch over us." Sunny curled up beside Penny, his golden fur glowing faintly in the moonlight. He glanced up at the endless sky, his thoughts drifting back to Tommy and Lily. He missed them, but felt their presence in his heart, knowing that he belonged with them, just as he now belonged in Terra Vale with his new friends. Penny, too, looked up at the stars. "It's amazing how big the world is, yet we still can find our place in it," she whispered. Belonging, acceptance, connection. It all fits together, doesn't it? Sunny nodded. It does. It all feels connected. And I'm glad we're here, learning these lessons together. The three friends lay by the lagoon, the night calm and serene. Above them, the stars twinkled, reflecting on the still waters of the lagoon. The air was cool but comforting, wrapping them in a blanket of peace. With the soft glow of the stars and the gentle sounds of nature all around, Sunny felt a deep sense of belonging and acceptance. Tomorrow would bring new adventures and new lessons, but for tonight, he was content to rest by the Crystal Lagoon, surrounded by friends. And so, under the protective light of the stars, Sunny drifted off to sleep, dreaming of what lay ahead on his journey through Terra Vale.
What a beautiful story, Mahi. I know it's a bit, almost sounds like a mutual admiration society when you or I kind of say, oh, that's so nice. But like Kody the Koala, like how cute is that? Like, and his wisdom about accepting loss and finding peace really strikes a chord in the Australian context with all of what has gone on in the last few years. It's kind of a land of fire and floods, you know, his story about losing his home in a bushfire. It's a powerful metaphor for the kinds of losses we all experience, whether it's losing a loved one, a job, or simply the life we imagined for ourselves.
Yes, it's such a gentle yet profound lesson. Sunny learned that it's okay to feel fear or sadness and that accepting those feelings is the first step to finding peace. And it really brings home the idea that we don't have to be perfect, and neither does life. It's about embracing what is, rather than getting stuck in what could have been.
Now, let's dive into some of the discussion questions that parents and caregivers, you know, teachers, nannies, anyone, you know, they can use to help children reflect on their story.
And I think these questions are a great way to spark these deeper conversations about acceptance and how it applies to their own lives. So, my first question is, why did Sunny hesitate when trying to cross the log? What did Penny and Kody teach him about accepting his fears?
It's a great starting point of a conversation. When children are faced with fear, the instinct is often to push through or avoid it entirely. But Penny and Kody showed Sunny that it's okay to acknowledge his fear without forcing himself to cross the log. Parents can guide this discussion by asking their child to think about a time when they felt scared and how they responded. Did they try to push themselves too hard? How might accepting the fear have made things easier?
Yes, and it's also about helping kids understand that fear is a natural part of life, encouraging them to talk about what scared them rather than avoiding it can build emotional intelligence. You could ask your child, what are some things you feel scared about? How can you accept those feelings without letting them stop you? This helps children feel heard and understood.
So the second question that you can use is the question around what does Kody the Koala mean when he says acceptance isn't about perfection.
And this question gets to the heart of the story. I think Kody was teaching Sunny that life doesn't have to be perfect for it to be good. That this can be a great opportunity for parents to talk about their own experiences with imperfection. Perhaps a project that didn't go as planned, or a personal goal that was harder to achieve than expected. Kids can learn so much from seeing that adults also struggle with perfectionism.
Exactly, Mahi. It is important for kids to understand that mistakes and setbacks don't mean failure. You could ask them, can you think of a time when you tried something and it didn't go perfectly? How did you feel about it? And how did accepting the result make things easier? This helps children reflect on their experiences and internalize the lesson that perfection isn't the goal, growth is.
Another good question, I think, is can you think of a time when you accepted yourself or a friend, even when things didn't go perfectly? And I think this question can spark a really meaningful conversation. Maybe a child accepted that they didn't do as well on a test as they had hoped, or perhaps they had to accept that a friend made a mistake. Parents can use this question to explore how accepting ourselves and others, even when things aren't perfect, can create more peace and understanding.
Yes, and it's a great way to introduce the idea of self compassion. I know we'll pick up compassion as a separate value in a future story, but often we are kinder to others than we are to ourselves. Asking children to reflect on times when they have shown acceptance towards others can help them understand how to extend the same kindness to themselves. You might ask, how do you think accepting yourself when things don't go perfectly can make life easier? This helps build empathy both for themselves and for others.
Another good discussion question is, why do you think the lagoon was such a calm and peaceful place for Sunny to learn about acceptance?
Yeah, this is more a reflective question that encourages kids to use their imagination. The lagoon represents a place of stillness and tranquility, and it's a perfect setting for a lesson in acceptance. You could ask your child, what makes you feel calm and peaceful? How can those feelings help you accept things in your life that might be difficult? This opens up a conversation about how finding moments of peace can help us cope with life's challenges. And this is something you will find as a theme, that the setting in Terra Vale that we have got for each of these values, nature would reflect the value as such. And this is something you can pick up in every single story.
What do you think makes koalas good teachers for acceptance? How do they live in the wild that shows they accept things as they are?
Like, koalas are such a great symbol for acceptance because they are calm, slow moving animals who seem to live in harmony with their environment. Well, sleeping most of the time, actually, given we live very close to a koala sanctuary. They don't rush or force things, they accept the place of life. Parents can ask, what do you think we can learn from animals like koalas about going with the flow and accepting things as they come? It's a fun way to help children think about how nature can teach us about values.
Another question could be, how is accepting yourself just as important as accepting others? Can you give an example of how both can make life easier?
So, this question can help children explore the balance between self acceptance and accepting others. Parents can steer the conversation by sharing their own experiences of learning to accept themselves, especially when it comes to personal challenges or imperfections. You could ask, why do you think accepting yourself makes it easier to accept others? This encourages children to see that self compassion and compassion for others go hand in hand.
What do you think might have happened if Sunny didn't accept his fear on the log? How did accepting it help him?
So, this is a really powerful question to help children understand that denying or fighting our feelings can make things harder. If Sunny had forced himself to cross a log, he might have fallen or felt even more afraid. But by accepting his fear, he was able to choose a different path. Parents can ask, can you think of a time when accepting a feeling helped you? How did it make things easier? This reinforces the idea that acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means finding a way forward, maybe an alternative way forward.
Can you describe what the Crystal Lagoon might look like in your imagination? What kind of animals do you think would live there?
This is a fun, imaginative question that invites children to picture the peaceful setting of the lagoon. You could even ask your child to draw or describe the lagoon as they imagine it, helping them connect with the story at a creative level. This question can lead to discussions about how creating peaceful environments in their minds or surroundings can help them accept difficult feelings. This is almost like an antidote to all the video games people play where they're shooting other people, like so. It's quite a nice, imaginative, creative question.
Why do you think the trees, plants, and animals in Terra Vale live in harmony? What does acceptance have to do with harmony?
This question allows children to think about how acceptance creates harmony, not just within ourselves, but in the world around us. Just like in Terra Vale, where everything works together in balance, accepting differences, whether in people, situations, or nature, leads to a more peaceful, harmonious life. Parents can ask, how can accepting people who are different from you create harmony in your world? This opens up important conversations about tolerance and empathy.
If you met Kody the Koala, what would you ask him about acceptance?
This is a great closing question, actually, that allows kids to reflect on the lessons from the story. You could encourage your child to think of their own questions and what they would want to learn from a wise character like Kody. It helps them personalize the lesson and makes it relevant to their own lives.
So I guess it all boils down to, how do we help children and adults practice acceptance in day-to-day life, especially when facing adversity?
The first step is acknowledging emotions. Whether it's frustration, sadness, or disappointment, it's important to validate those feelings rather than suppress them. Acceptance doesn't mean you like the situation. It means you are willing to face it. For children, parents and teachers can model this by accepting their own challenges in front of their kids. Saying things like, I'm really disappointed that this didn't work out, but that's okay. Let's see what we can do next. This teaches children how to process their emotions and move forward. So this role modeling is so important.
Manaan, this has been such a powerful discussion about the value of acceptance. As we wrap up today's episode, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
Well, I said we wanted to play a game. So the next week is the name of the story is Connecting the Dots. And the focus of the main value is one on connection. So we can get our listeners to think about, I wonder what might be the character that Sunny and Penny
will go on
would team up together and to which part of Terra Vale are they going on an adventure next. So send in some messages and comments on on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you are listening on. What do you reckon would be a good animal character to, and by the way, when I say animal character, they can be characters, they can be birds as well, they can be things in the sea and the river. Remember, Terra Vale is a magical, mystical place, so imagination knows no bounds over there. So I guess closing messages, I think the key takeaway is that acceptance is a powerful tool for mental well-being. Whether it's big adversities like ones Kody faced, like the bushfires and losing his friends, losing his home, or smaller day-to-day struggles, acceptance allows us to face life's challenges with grace and resilience. For children, learning acceptance early on helps them develop emotional strength, and for adults, it's a reminder that peace comes from within, not from perfect circumstances.
Thank you, Manaan, and thank you to all our listeners for joining us today. Remember, acceptance is a value we can all practice, and it brings peace and resilience to every part of life.
We should always end on the note that if someone is working on Disney or Pixar, it's time they picked up the phone and reached out to us. Yes, indeed. You've been listening to the Protect podcast. It's part of the Safe Life Guide series that we're doing. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and share it with others, and join us again next week for more stories from Sunny's Value Scouts and more conversations on how core values can build resilience and well-being. Next week, we will cover connection and keep guessing who the character will be, who would be teaching connection, and write and send in messages. We love getting messages from you all. Till then, have a wonderful week and a great day today.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.